Hey there YouTube fans, AC Productions here. If you are new to my channel, I would say welcome, and this is a maintenance series of videos of where I show you on how to maintain, replace, check, and fix anything that has to do with your R3 through the manufacturer's recommendations. And I'll also show you things that are not in the manufacturer's book. I'll show you how to do also. And today I'll be showing you on how to change your oil. Now, according to the manufacturer specifications, you want to change your oil at 600 miles, 4,000 miles, 7,000 miles, 10,000 miles, 13,000 miles, 16,000 miles, and then every 3,000 miles there and after. But for the oil filter, you want to change it every other oil change. So you would first change it at the 600 miles, then 7,000 miles, 13,000 miles, and then every 6,000 miles thereafter. Okay, so let me show you the tools that you're going to need and the oil and filter that you're going to need to use to change out your oil. Alright, so here's all the things that you're going to need to do your oil change. You're going to need 3 quarts of 10W40. I personally like to use the Mobil 1 brand. Next is going to be a Yamaha oil filter. Now the reason I choose to stick with the OEM oil filter is because I did try Ram and other brands, and I've noticed that the threads on those brands causes my oil filter to leak oil. If you don't notice it right away, that could be very bad. So my recommendations is always stick with the OEM filter. You cannot go wrong for the R3. Here is the part number for the Yamaha OEM for the R3. I got this straight from the Yamaha dealership, and it only cost, I would say, I think it was $12 for the oil filter. So, and it's completely sealed, as you can see, so you can't go wrong. And now, depending on how far your Yamaha dealership is, I personally like to buy 2 to 3 of these because they're inexpensive and it saves me the trip on the next time I need to do an oil change. The closest Yamaha dealership is an hour away from me, so I just like to stock up on that. If your Yamaha dealership is pretty close, then don't worry about buying extra pieces. All right, next would be the oil drain plug gasket. You want to make sure you change that every time you do an oil change. So every time you do an oil change, go ahead and replace that little spacer. Very inexpensive. I think this was a few dollars. And then here is the part number straight from the Yamaha dealership for this particular part. After that, you want to make sure you have a ratchet with a 12mm socket. Now this is a tool that I use to take out the oil filter. So even though you hand tighten them, over time the pressure actually makes it more tight. So this is pretty much an adjustable rubber strap. I'll have a link in the description below of where I purchased this one from. And this is totally adjustable to any size that I need it for any type of project that I'm doing. So this comes in handy. Next will be your funnel. And then if you have latex gloves, great. If you don't, a few paper towels will come in handy to wipe your hands off from the oil. Then next you're also going to need an oil drain pan. If you have something like this, great. Don't, and you have it where it's open, that's totally fine also. Okay, so on all R3s, they come with an oil light indicator. Let me show you that, meaning it'll let you know when it's time to change your oil. So once you turn on your bike, as you can see on mine, you'll see the oil light blinking, showing you that it's already time to change your oil. So now let me show you which mileage I'm in. So as you can see, I'm already past due for my oil change. I was due at 13,000 miles and I went over by 1,500. So it's definitely time for me to change my oil. So after we change the oil, I will show you how to reset this oil light so it will indicate and let you know when it will be time and due for another oil change. Okay, so first what you want to do is you want to go ahead and you want to loosen up your oil filter, which is right here. You don't want to completely take it off because then you're going to start dripping oil all over the place. You just want to get it loosened up where you're able to take it off with your hand. So just go ahead and loosen that up. And then also you want to loosen up your bolt on here with your 12mm socket. And again, just loosen it, just break the nut, meaning get it to loose, so that way you're able to unscrew the bolt. So once you get both of these at a loose where you are able to remove it by hand, then you want to grab your oil pan and then just put it right underneath your bike so all the oil and everything drips right inside the oil pan. All right, so now that I got everything pretty much loosened, so as you can see, I could turn this by hand, and then this I could also turn by hand. We're gonna grab our oil pan and we're gonna go ahead and slide it right underneath the bike. And it's a good idea to have your paper towels ready in case you catch some oil in your hand. So I'm gonna go ahead and undo the oil filter first. So keep on twisting it until it completely comes off. go ahead and put that off to the side, and then pretty much just wait until all the oil completely drains out of your engine. If you're able to, without catching any oil on your hand, go ahead and remove the oil drain plug as well. Yep, there we go. All right, so if you catch a little oil on your hand, that's okay. Go ahead and wipe it off right away with your paper towel. And then go ahead and grab your oil drain plug, put it into the paper towel, and make sure you clean it off. Clean from dirt and debris, because once you put this thing back on, you definitely want to make sure that it doesn't have any debris on the plug when you put it back into the block. All right, so while that's all draining out, I'm going to wait until every single drop is gone and out of the engine block, and then I'll show you what to do next. At this time would be a good time, since you're waiting for the oil to all drain out from the engine, would be a good time to remove your old drain plug gasket, which is actually right there. If you could see it, it's kind of hard to see, but pretty much that right there is not part of it, so you have to go ahead and remove it. It might be a little tricky to remove, but just try to do the best you can. If you're able to grab it, if you have fingernails to grab it, just go ahead and spin it right off, because it will be pretty tight on there. So just go ahead and spin that part off. So there you go, it came right off. Fairly simple, which doesn't always happen. Okay, after you take it off, you want to go ahead and you want to make sure that you clean off any debris that's left over on the edge of the bolt. You want to make sure it has a clean surface so you could install your new drain plug gasket. So make sure to just get it as clean as you can. Okay, once you get your bolt nice and clean as best you can, now you want to go ahead and you want to open up your new package with your new oil drain plug gasket. So here it is. There is two sides. One part is like a rounded side, and the other side has like a little bevel. I would say probably put the bevel part on the inside and then this part on the outside. So go ahead, and if it takes a while, just move it around to get it seated nicely. So there we go. Now you're ready to put this back in once all the oil has drained out. Okay, I can see that it's almost completely empty, but there is still some pouring out. I usually like to make sure that all the engine oil is completely out and there's nothing left but droplets coming out, as you see it right now. So I'm going to give it a few more minutes to make sure that it becomes like slow droplets that are coming out. Then I know that all the oil has come out from the engine. Another tip to get a little bit more out from the engine block is to grab the bike and tip it towards you a little bit onto the kickstand, almost like if you were to use the kickstand to twist your bike around. By doing so, you're going to get more of the oil out of the engine block, so when you do put your fresh new oil, you have more fresh oil than used oil inside your engine block. Okay, once you see that all the oil has stopped dripping from the engine, you want to do is you want to grab your paper towel and you want to make sure that you clean out the surface of where your bolt is going to go. You want to make sure that you also clean out this area over here where your oil filter is going to go. You want to make sure that there is no debris on the surface of where the gasket's going to meet the engine block. So just go ahead and give it a good wipe down. Make sure that everything is nice and clean. Once you have everything nice and clean, now you want to go ahead and you could go ahead and first put your oil drain plug in over here at the bottom. So for now, you could just go ahead and hand tighten it until it doesn't want to go in anymore. Don't tighten it all the way with the wrench just yet. All right, if you get any oil on your hand, just go ahead and wipe it down with the paper towel right away. All right, so now this part. Okay, so now for this part, when you install the oil filter, go ahead and get the oil filter out. You want to remove the plastic covering that's over this area. So just go ahead and remove that piece. Now what I like to do, and I think it'll be also recommended, is to fill your oil filter with oil at least halfway inside. Reason being, that way when you put the oil filter back onto your bike and you start your bike with all the new oil, there is no part of the engine block that's going to be starving for oil until it goes through the system. So at least this kind of puts oil in there, so there's areas where it's not going to be without oil for very long. It'll be a few seconds, I would say. If you don't do this, you have a risk of having areas kind of prematurely wear just a little bit. So you know, if you want your R3 to last, I would say put some oil at least to the halfway mark inside your oil filter, and then just go ahead and install it onto the bike. And just go ahead and do that. And also you want to make sure that you get some fresh oil and then put some on the bead of the seal over here. So let's go ahead and open this up and then pour our oil inside the filter. All right, so if you get it to the top, don't worry, all the air bubbles will take out some of that oil, and the oil will kind of like just go into the filter. Therefore, it should leave you with pretty much well, you may want to fill it up just a little bit more so it could go to the halfway mark. Go really slowly because it does tend to fill pretty quickly. All right, and then just dab your finger in the fresh oil, and then just go ahead and put the oil around the bead of the filter. Now that there's some oil in there, let's go ahead and let's cover this up. I don't want this to spill. Okay, so next what we're going to do is we're going to grab our oil filter and we're going to go ahead and install it back on the engine. So as you put it on there, you just want to make sure it's hand tight. All right, so once you get it hand tight, then you're going to use your tool and you're just going to give it a quarter of a turn or a little bit less than a quarter of a turn to really get it seated nice and tight. All right, so now that we have everything on there, you could go ahead and you could push your oil drain pan away from the bike. Then go ahead and grab the tool and then just give it a little bit of a turn. You don't need to go crazy on over tightening on the filter. All right, so there you go. That's all the turns you need to do, because you definitely don't want to be stripping the threads or anything like that. And then for your bolt, your oil drain plug, go ahead and give that tight. Again, don't over tighten it because you can strip the bolt and you can strip the threads on the engine block, and you definitely don't want that. I would say right about there. If it was going to be torqued down, if you do happen to have a torque wrench and you want to torque down the specifications, it will be 14 foot-pounds is what you want to tighten down that bolt to. And then if you don't have a torque wrench, you just want to make sure you get it nice and tight, and then you're going to see the drain plug gasket get smashed, and just make sure it is tight enough but not over tighten the bolt. Okay, next is what you want to do is you want to get to the other side of the bike where and locate where your oil cap is. Mine is red. On yours, it may be stock black with a little lever to open it. So go ahead, unscrew it, and then get your funnel and put it in the hole. Just gonna go ahead and clean some of this oil here. All right. Okay, I guess that one's too big, so luckily I have a backup. So here's my backup. You got the funnel. This one doesn't want to stay, so I'm gonna have to hold it. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna pour the rest of the oil that I had put from the oil filter. There we go. So I'm going to pause the video so you guys don't get bored and see me just pouring oil into my engine. So pretty much after 2 quarts, you want to make sure that you check your oil indicator level, which is right here. And to do so, when you put it here, you're going to start seeing a little bit of oil. But to really make sure, there is an indicator here on where the oil level should be. There's one line here and one line down here. You want to make sure it's pretty much at that top line. Now, if you're wondering how much quarts of oil you need to use for the R3 by manufacturer recommendations, if you're doing the oil change without changing the oil filter, it's going to be 1.90 quarts, so pretty much almost 2 quarts. If you're doing this with a complete oil change, meaning with oil and filter, it's going to be 2.22 quarts. So I would say almost around 2.5 quarts. So I'm pretty much done. And as you can see, it's pretty much right on the line where you want it to be when you have the bike on the kickstand. Let me zoom in for you guys so you guys could see. So there is the oil level and the bike is on the kickstand. It's not on a bike stand, just a regular side stand. So as you can see, there's the level right there where you want it to be. Actually stand your bike upright. You're going to notice that that whole little glass is going to fill with oil. So let me stand the bike upright so you guys can see that. So as you can see, the whole glass is already full with oil. It is good. All right, we'll put it back down, and then again, once the back is back on the stand, as you can see, pretty much right where it's supposed to be. Okay, so once you got it at the correct level, you go ahead and tighten down your oil cap, and that's pretty much it. Okay guys, now after you already tighten up the oil cap, now you want to go up to the front of the bike here. We're going to go ahead and we're going to turn on, not completely turn on, but we're just going to turn it on accessory mode. Now what we're going to do here is we're going to reset the oil trip meter, because right now it's blinking. I don't know if you can see that over there. You can move the camera a little bit. Kind of see it right there. It's kind of blinking that I had to change the oil, but we've already changed the oil. So now all we need to do is just reset it so the computer knows that we changed the oil, and it'll just count the miles until the next oil change. Okay, so to reset it, what you want to do is you want to go to where it says select, which is the bottom button here, and we're going to go to the part where it actually tells you how many miles it is for your oil change. So not trip 1 or 2. That one is your miles per gallon, not that one. This one is how many miles you get per gallon. It's going to be the one that's going to say trip and then how many miles it is right there. Once you get to that one, you want to go ahead and you want to press the RES button, which is the button here on the top, and you want to hold it down for a second or so. All right, now it's blinking. So once you have it blinking, you want to hold down the res button again for 3 seconds. All right, so therefore, as you see, it reset it out to 0. And now your oil just says oil only, and it's already been reset. Okay, so now you can see that the oil and the trip meter already are not blinking, and then you could see the mileage is down to 0. So now the system is completely reset, and then it'll remind you when it's getting close to the next oil change. Okay, so the next step would be to actually start up your bike and let some of that oil go through the system. So we're on neutral, everything's good. So okay, so now to start up the bike. Alright, it doesn't have to go for that long. You just want it for at least a few seconds or so, just to get the oil kind of circulating through the engine. Once it's done, that's pretty much it. Alright guys, well that concludes this maintenance video on how to properly change your oil and filter on the R3. If you found this video helpful, please hit that like button. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. And if you haven't yet subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. Don't forget to hit that notification bell. That way you guys get the up-to-date, newest maintenance video. And thank you for watching.